Hello everyone, welcome back to the Global Conflict News channel. Please subscribe to my channel for more detailed insights into the biggest stories shaping our world. Today, we dive into a deeply controversial and highly consequential decision that has once again placed the United States at the center of global debate. For the sixth time, the U.S. has blocked a United Nations Security Council resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. This ongoing conflict, filled with suffering, diplomacy, and power struggles, raises critical questions about international law, humanitarian values, and the true cost of geopolitical strategy. Why does the U.S. continue to oppose what appears to be a widely supported call for peace? What are the implications for global stability, America's image, and the lives of millions of people caught in the middle? Let's break this story down by reviewing it as if it were a product, analyzing its exterior, interior, performance, safety features, unique selling points, price, and concluding with the broader lessons we can draw from it. On the exterior, this decision projects an image of America standing tall and resolute, refusing to bend to international pressure. From the outside, the U.S. justification is based on supporting its ally Israel and maintaining what it calls a balanced approach to peace negotiations. It argues that calls for an immediate ceasefire, without addressing the root causes of the conflict, would only strengthen Hamas and prolong instability. To some observers, this exterior looks like a shield, polished with diplomatic language about self-defense, security, and long-term solutions. But to many others around the world, the exterior appears battered and dented, revealing a nation out of step with the global consensus. At least 13 out of 15 Security Council members supported the call for ceasefire, with only the U.S. standing firmly against it, joined occasionally by a single abstention from another member. From the outside, therefore, the decision carries an aura of isolation, where America is seen as prioritizing alliance politics over humanitarian urgency. Inside, the reasoning is relatively straightforward. The interior of this policy is built upon domestic politics, the strong influence of the pro-Israel lobby, and Washington's long-standing strategic calculations in the Middle East. Internally, U.S. policymakers weigh not only the situation in Gaza but also how their stance resonates with voters, lobby groups, and regional partners. The inside view is less about morality and more about calculations, security of allies, deterrence of adversaries, and safeguarding influence. This interior logic is compact, functional, and designed to maintain consistency across administrations. But it lacks space for empathy, and critics argue that this cramped interior leaves little room for the humanitarian voice. The performance of this decision can be measured in both short-term and long-term outcomes. In the short term, the U.S. bloc ensures that Israel continues its military operations without the added diplomatic weight of a UN-mandated ceasefire. It performs effectively in protecting Israeli interests and signaling that America's commitments remain ironclad. However, the long-term performance is far less convincing. Blocking repeated calls for peace risks eroding America's credibility as a global leader. It paints a picture of double standards where the U.S. champions democracy and human rights in some regions but appears blind to humanitarian catastrophes in others. This decision has already fueled anger among Arab and Muslim-majority countries, strained relations with Europe, and strengthened narratives among adversaries like Russia and China who argue that the U.S.-led international order is hypocritical. Performance, therefore, is dual-sided, strong in demonstrating loyalty to an ally, but weak in sustaining moral authority and global respect. Safety features in this context refer to the protective mechanisms the U.S. uses to justify and defend its stance. Washington argues that an immediate ceasefire without addressing security guarantees would only endanger Israel and risk another cycle of violence. This is presented as a safety lock, a feature designed to prevent the reloading of conflict under Hamas's control. American diplomats highlight the importance of humanitarian pauses, aid corridors, and negotiations that include disarmament and long-term peace processes. These features are meant to reassure both domestic and international audiences that the U.S. is not entirely dismissive of humanitarian concerns. Yet, critics claim these safety features are insufficient. Like fragile airbags in a high-speed crash, they exist, but they fail to protect civilians from the overwhelming impact of ongoing warfare. The rising civilian death toll in Gaza, the destruction of infrastructure, and the worsening humanitarian crisis reveal the limitations of these safety claims. They are safety features that work for Israel's security but not for Palestinian lives. The unique selling points of the U.S. position lie in its unwavering consistency and strategic clarity. Unlike other powers who sometimes shift their votes or abstain to balance political optics, America has shown a firm stance, blocking 6 resolutions in a row. This persistence highlights a unique selling point: reliability to allies. For Israel, there is no doubt about where the U.S. stands. Another unique aspect is the framing of the conflict not merely as a regional war but as part of a broader struggle against terrorism. By packaging the decision as an anti-terrorism stance, the U.S. attempts to sell it as a universal interest rather than a partisan bias. However, uniqueness can also backfire. What makes this position stand out is also what makes it increasingly controversial. While America markets its reliability, critics say it is selling a product that disregards humanity. Its uniqueness is not seen as strength but as stubbornness, separating it from the rest of the world. When we discuss the price of this decision, we are not talking about dollars and cents but about the cost in political capital, moral authority, and human lives. For the United States, the price includes damaged relationships with key global partners who feel ignored or undermined at the UN. It includes feeding narratives of hypocrisy that weaken U.S. influence in the global South. For Israel, the price is continued military engagement that fuels long-term instability rather than sustainable peace. For Palestinians in Gaza, the price is unbearable, measured in destroyed homes, shattered families, and countless lives lost. The price tag is printed in humanitarian terms, and it is rising every day the conflict continues. In the marketplace of global diplomacy, this is a product that comes at a staggering human cost, one that many countries are unwilling to accept. America may be willing to pay this price to protect its ally, but the global community sees it as too high, too devastating, and too reckless to endorse. In conclusion, the U.S. blocking of the UN call for a Gaza ceasefire for the 6th time can be reviewed like a controversial product. On the outside, it looks like strength and loyalty, but inside it is built on cold calculations of power. Its performance is reliable in supporting an ally but disastrous for America's global reputation. The safety features it claims are insufficient to protect the most vulnerable. Its uniqueness lies in unwavering support, but that uniqueness isolates it from global consensus. The price is immense, carried not just by diplomats but by civilians in Gaza. This decision highlights the paradox of American power, strong enough to shape outcomes, yet weakened by the moral contradictions of its choices. For viewers of global conflict news, the lesson here is that international politics is not only about who wins or loses on the battlefield but also about the long-term costs of the decisions made in boardrooms and council chambers. As this crisis unfolds, one truth becomes clear: without a genuine commitment to peace, every block, every veto, and every decision leaves behind scars that will last for generations.